My parents toasted at my sister's engagement dinner to the one who never gave us a single gray hair. I clinked my glass and said, unless you count the time she used my name on her college application fraud. Her fiancé blinked. Wait, you didn't go to Stanford? At my sister Avelini's engagement dinner, my parents made a toast calling her the one who never gave us a single gray hair. I raised my glass and replied, unless you count the time she used my name on her college application fraud. Her fiancé Carter, confused, turned to her and said, wait, you didn't go to Stanford? It was the moment everything cracked open: the lies, the betrayal, the years of pain buried under silence. I'm 38 now, and I'm just starting to rebuild what was stolen from me. The table went quiet. You could hear the faint clink of a spoon against porcelain from a few tables away, and I swear even the candlelight seemed to flicker more harshly. Avelini's fiancé, Carter, slowly turned his head toward her, blinking like he'd missed a punchline. Wait, he said, his voice too calm to be genuine, you didn't go to Stanford? Avelini froze, her smile still painted on her lips like it hadn't received the signal to fall yet. I kept my eyes on my wine glass, swirling it gently, letting the silence stretch. I had been waiting years for this. My mother, Lorraine, let out a sharp little laugh, one she probably meant to break the tension. Celine, that's not funny. It's not a joke, I said, still not looking up. You just preferred to forget about it. Carter looked back and forth between Avelini and me, frowning. I'm confused. I thought. Then he stopped. Whatever he was going to say trailed off as his mind started catching up with the implications. My father cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable. This is neither the time nor the place for digging up old drama. Of course he said that. Of course they all said that. Because for them it was history. For me, it was a scar that never healed right. Let me rewind. I'm Celine. I'm 38 now. I live in Albany, New York, and work at the New York State Library. I like my quiet life. I like order, patterns, stories that make sense. Which is probably why I've always struggled with the chaos that is my family. Growing up, it was always me and Avelini. She's 3 years younger. I was the responsible one, the academic one, the old soul. Avelini was the performer, bright, beautiful, the kind of girl who walked into a room and made people light up just by smiling. People always gravitated to her. Our parents included. I don't think they meant to play favorites. But they did. I could hand them a science fair trophy and they'd nod, already asking Avelini how her dance recital went. If I had a bad day, they'd tell me to toughen up. If she had a bad day, they gave her ice cream and excuses. Still, I loved her. I looked out for her. I defended her when people called her spoiled. I told myself that if I just worked harder, they'd notice me more. I was 18 when I got into Stanford. Full ride. I cried when I opened the letter, tears of joy and disbelief and validation. I had done it. I was getting out. I was going somewhere that mattered. My parents congratulated me, but it was more polite than proud. I remember distinctly how my mother said, "Well, of course you did. That's what you were working toward." Like it was inevitable. Like it wasn't the product of every sleepless night and every panic attack I'd quietly hidden. I left for California with one suitcase and the kind of hope you only have once in your life. Fast forward a few years. I was deep into my junior year, pre-law, exhausted but doing well. I had just wrapped up midterms when I got a weird email and automated note from the registrar saying my personal information had been updated. I hadn't requested any changes, so I followed up. Turns out, someone had logged into my student account. At first, I thought it was a glitch. Then I checked the login location. It had been done from upstate New York. I didn't think of Avelini right away. Why would I? She was working at a boutique back home. Barely taking classes at Hudson Valley Community College. The last I'd heard, she'd dropped 2 of them mid-semester. But then one night I got a call from her. She sounded excited, almost giddy. "You'll never believe this," she said. I'm coming to Stanford. I thought she meant to visit. She didn't. I didn't understand at first. Then she explained. Piece by piece, detail by detail, like she was confessing to sneaking an extra cookie. She'd applied using my credentials. Claimed she was me. Claimed she was transferring in, using forged transcripts. Somehow, she'd pulled it off. I remember being absolutely stunned, unable to even form words for several seconds. You used my identity? I finally said. How did you even get access to my info? You left your old laptop at home, she said, casual as anything. It was all saved. I thought maybe if I could just do one semester, show mom and dad I could make it. She spun it like it was a favor to both of us. She needed a win. She just wanted to see what it was like to be taken seriously. She promised it would be temporary. Just a few months. Then she'd disappear. She made it sound like some grand act of desperation, a cry for help wrapped in a college hoodie. I should have reported her. But I didn't. I don't know if it was guilt or fear or just the conditioning of being the good daughter who never made waves. Instead, I took a leave of absence. Told the school I needed time for my mental health, which wasn't entirely a lie. She enrolled under my name. Took classes. Lied to professors. Wore my ID badge. I thought it would be a semester. It became a year. Then a year and a half. And then she graduated. As me. She had a degree hanging on the wall of our parents' living room that I earned with sweat and tears, but she wore the cap and gown. Our parents knew. Or if they didn't know the whole truth, they knew enough not to ask. They celebrated her graduation more than mine. I never went back to Stanford. The truth was, after the leave of absence and all the complications, my financial aid became a mess. I couldn't afford to return. I couldn't explain to the financial office why things weren't matching up. I spiraled. Lost my grip. Eventually I moved back east, found small jobs, tried to build a life out of the rubble. I kept it all quiet. I told myself it was over. I told myself to move on. And then came the engagement dinner. Carter was polite, charming, clean-cut. He looked at Avellini the way boys in movies look at the girl in the final scene. And for a moment, I almost convinced myself to let it be. To sit through dinner, nod at the right times, toast to the couple like nothing had ever happened. Then my father raised his glass and called her the one who never gave us a single gray hair. And I cracked. I hadn't planned to say it. I didn't rehearse it. But the moment he said it, the words just came out, as easy as breathing. Unless you count the time she used my name on her college application fraud. The look on Avellini's face, pure panic. Carter's face, confusion. My parents' faces, fury and shame wrapped into one. That moment is still echoing in my head. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I felt free. I left the restaurant before dessert was served. I didn't storm out. I didn't yell or make a scene. I simply stood, set my napkin down, murmured a quiet excuse me, and walked out the doors into the cool Albany night. My hands were shaking. Not from regret or fear, but from the sheer release of it all. For nearly 2 decades, I had swallowed that truth like it was arsenic I had no choice but to keep down. Now, it was out. And there was no taking it back. I walked home. It was just under 2 miles, and the chill helped clear my head. My phone buzzed half a dozen times, calls from my mom, then Avellini, and one from an unknown number I suspected was Carter. I didn't answer any of them. When I got home, I poured myself a small glass of whiskey and sat at the kitchen table. My house was quiet, a little cold, and I liked it that way. Silence was safe. Predictable. Mine. I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, I woke up to texts. Mom, Celine, you completely embarrassed your sister. That was unnecessary and cruel. Please call me. Dad, whatever that was last night, you owe your sister and Carter an apology. Avellini, I need to talk to you. Alone. Please. I turned off my phone. Later that afternoon, I opened my email, half expecting something from Carter. And there it was. Subject, thank you. Celine, I don't know what to say, except, thank you. I've had a pit in my stomach since last night. Avellini hasn't said much. I don't know what the truth is, entirely, but something tells me I saw enough of it. You didn't owe me that honesty, but I appreciate that you gave it to me anyway. Carter. I stared at his message for a long time. There was a sadness in it. Not the heartbreak of a jilted lover, but the deeper sorrow of a man waking up inside someone else's illusion. I didn't respond. Over the next few days, I heard the fallout in bits and pieces. Through a mutual cousin, I learned that Carter had postponed the wedding. Indefinitely was the word used. The engagement ring had been returned. Avellini had stopped going to work. My parents had gone radio silent. I knew what was happening. They were circling the wagons. They always did. When Avellini got caught shoplifting lip gloss at 16, my mom said, "It's just teenage curiosity." When she lied to a teacher about me oppressing her to avoid being caught cheating on a test, my dad told me, "Just let it go, you know how emotional she gets." And when she stole my identity to get into college, they told me nothing. To them, Avellini wasn't someone who made mistakes. She was someone the world misunderstood. Someone who just needed a little help. Someone who deserved second, third, fourth chances. But I wasn't angry. Not anymore. I was tired. A week later, I ran into Carter. Not planned. Just one of those strange small world moments that only seem to happen when something in the universe wants to press its thumb into your back. I was at the Honest Weight Co-op picking up fresh bread, and he was standing in the tea aisle looking completely lost. He saw me before I saw him. Celine. I turned, unsure what to expect. Anger? Pity? But he just looked, calm. Worn, but calm. "Hey," I said, slowly. He gave a little shrug, the kind people give when they have no idea what to do with their hands. I'm living in Scroon Lake now. At least for the next few months. Helping my brother with his startup. Nice place, I said. Yeah. He paused. Just needed to get out of the city. Clear my head. I nodded. He looked at me, and his voice softened. You were right to say something. I know, I said. There wasn't much more to say after that. We exchanged polite words and went our separate ways. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I pulled out the old manila envelope I'd kept in the back of my closet. Inside were all the pieces screenshots of emails Avellini had sent from my account, a copy of her fake transcripts, printouts of conversations we had where she admitted to it all. I had always kept it. Not to use, but as a reminder that I wasn't crazy. That it really happened. That it mattered. But now I wondered, what was I holding on to, really? Proof? Power? Or just pain? I didn't throw it away. But I moved it. Out of the closet, out of the dark corner where it had sat untouched for over a decade. I put it in the drawer of my desk. Where I could see it. Avellini finally came to see me a few days later. She showed up at my door in jeans and a sweater too big for her. No makeup. Hair pulled back. Her usual glow dimmed into something brittle and hesitant. I didn't invite her in right away. I just stood in the doorway. She looked at me with glassy eyes. I messed everything up. I said nothing. I didn't mean for it to go so far. You weren't supposed to leave Stanford. I thought if I could do it once, just one semester, maybe I'd finally feel like I was good enough. That's not how you prove you're good enough, Avellini. I know, she whispered. I know that now. She looked at me, and for the first time in years, she didn't look like the girl who always had a comeback, who could lie her way out of anything. She looked like a woman who'd run out of tricks. I want to fix things, she said. I want to make it right. How? I asked. She opened her mouth to answer. But the truth was, there was no answer to that. Not one that would undo the past. Not one that could fix who we became in the process. She didn't have an answer. Her mouth stayed open for a second longer before she closed it again, her eyes dropping to the porch floor. I waited. I wasn't going to fill the silence for her. That's what I always used to do: patch over her mistakes, explain her intentions, smooth out the ripples before they became waves. But I was done with that. I had been for a while now. I know you probably hate me, she said finally. I don't hate you, I said. And I didn't. Not really. But there was no comfort in the words, because the next part of the sentence lived unsaid between us: I don't trust you either. She shifted her weight and finally asked, "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. She entered my small kitchen like someone walking into a stranger's house for the first time. She looked around but didn't comment on the old pine shelves or the mismatched mugs or the magnet poetry on my fridge. I didn't offer her tea. I wasn't sure I wanted this to feel hospitable. We sat. The kitchen table felt smaller with her there, somehow. I know I don't have the right to ask for anything, she started, twisting her hands in her lap, but I want to talk about what happened. I want to hear your side. I think I need to. I raised an eyebrow. You think you need to? Celine, she exhaled. I've spent most of my life not thinking about how my choices affected you. That's not an excuse, it's just the truth. And after what happened with Carter, after what you said at the dinner, I've been thinking about it nonstop. I let her speak. She went on for a while, retracing her steps like confession would be a form of redemption. She talked about the pressure she always felt to be perfect in the eyes of our parents. How she believed she had no identity of her own. That I was the smart one and she had nothing but looks and charm, and that charm only got you so far once high school ended. She said she was desperate. That watching me succeed made her feel like she was drowning in comparison. That the only way she saw forward was to hijack my trajectory for herself. Listening to her try to piece it together wasn't satisfying. It wasn't even particularly moving. It just made me tired. I was a coward, she said, her voice lower now. And selfish. That got a faint nod from me. I think I convinced myself you didn't really want to be a lawyer, she added, eyes flicking up at me. I thought you were tired. That you'd come back to New York and figure out a different path. That wasn't your call to make, I said. She nodded. I know. The silence stretched again, but I wasn't rushing to break it. Eventually, she looked up and asked, "Why didn't you ever tell them? Or the school? You could have exposed me. Had me expelled. Probably arrested." I leaned back in the chair, the wood creaking under my weight. Because I didn't think they'd believe me. And I didn't want to explain my own collapse to people who never really saw me to begin with. Her eyes glossed over again, and for a second, I thought she might cry. But she blinked it away. I think Carter's done with me. He should be, I said, not unkindly. She gave a slow, defeated nod. Yeah. I think so too. I didn't enjoy her heartbreak. That's not what this was about. I wasn't looking for revenge, not in the traditional sense. I didn't need her punished or ruined. I just wanted the truth to exist in the world. For once. Without me having to contort myself into silence so other people could feel comfortable. She glanced toward the hallway. Do you still have the old envelope? I frowned. You knew about it? I always suspected you kept something. You're not the type to just let go. I guess I'm not. Can I see it? I hesitated, then rose from the table and went to my desk. The envelope was still there, right where I'd moved it. I brought it back, dropped it in front of her. She stared at it like it might bite her. Then slowly, she slid the contents out. Emails, screenshots, a printed copy of a letter she'd drafted in my name to the registrar. It was all there. I watched her go pale. "I forgot how much I lied," she murmured, not quite to me. "How much I manipulated." "You didn't forget," I said. "You just stopped thinking it mattered." She didn't argue. She set the papers down and rested her hand over them for a second, like she was trying to absorb something by touch alone. Then she slid them back inside and pushed the envelope toward me. "I don't expect forgiveness," she said. "Good," I replied. She flinched. "Just a little. But I do want to try," she added. "To do what?" "To be honest. From now on. To actually start over. If that's something you'd ever want." It was a heavy offer. And maybe, in another time, I would have leapt at it. But sitting there in the quiet of my kitchen, I realized I didn't need her to rebuild anything with me. Not right now. Maybe not ever. What I needed, what I had earned, was space. Room to exist outside of her shadow. Room to not be the other sister. I stood, and she understood that meant the conversation was over. At least for now. She left without protest. No dramatic goodbye. No hugs. Just a faint, tentative, "Thank you for letting me come." I locked the door after she left and leaned against it for a long moment. Outside, the streetlights were starting to flicker on. Somewhere, a neighbor's wind chime was singing in the breeze. The world didn't care that a truth had finally been spoken after almost 2 decades. But I cared. I went back to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and looked at the envelope on the table. I didn't put it back in the drawer. I left it there, in the open. A small monument to the fact that what happened mattered even if no one else ever talks about it again. I didn't see Avellini for months after that. She sent a few texts, most of them one-liners, "Thinking of you. Hope you're doing okay." A few came on holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, but she never pushed, never asked to come by again. I think part of her knew that if she forced the issue, she'd undo what little progress she had made. My parents, on the other hand, didn't stay quiet for long. About 3 weeks after Avellini's visit, I received a long email from my mother. It was the sort of thing she probably spent hours writing and rewriting, equal parts apology and justification. She said she never realized the depth of my pain, and that if they had known what Avellini did, they would have handled things differently. She said she hoped we could heal as a family and that she missed me. There was no real accountability in her words. Just grief at the fractured image of her perfect family. I didn't reply. But I wasn't done either. There's a strange thing that happens when you stop carrying shame. You start seeing clearly what you gave away, what you allowed, and what was taken from you. And in that clarity, I started reclaiming what was mine. I reached out to Stanford. Not to punish Avellini, but to reclaim my identity. It took weeks of back and forth calls, emails, submitting documentation. I told them about the identity theft, the false enrollment, the forged credentials. I explained that I had taken a leave of absence but never returned due to complications that were now clear in hindsight. I didn't name Avellini. I wasn't trying to get her arrested or blacklisted. But I did prove that I was Celine Hart. And that the transcript on file didn't represent my work. That the degree conferred in my name did not belong to me. Stanford opened an investigation. By the time they reached their conclusion, it was spring. I received a letter in the mail, official, embossed, from the registrar's office. They had formally revoked the degree associated with my student ID. That part was painful. Even if it wasn't me who walked across that stage, it still stung to see the words "degree nullified." But along with the letter was something else. An invitation to reapply. Not to the undergraduate program, I was well past that, but to their professional studies division. A program in archival science, remote learning, with an opportunity to transfer credits from my original coursework. They offered a scholarship based on my previous academic standing. They were making it right. In their way. So I applied. And I got in. For the first time in almost 20 years, I opened a course portal that had my name at the top. Not Avellini's. Not some forged identity. Just me. I didn't tell my family. I didn't need their approval anymore. But the satisfaction didn't stop there. About a month into the program, I got a LinkedIn notification someone had viewed my profile. I recognized the name immediately. Carter Webb. I clicked out of curiosity and saw that he'd taken a new position at a nonprofit in Vermont that helped underrepresented students apply for college. I laughed. The irony wasn't lost on me. A few days later, he sent me a message. Hey Celine. Hope you're well. I wanted you to know Avellini applied for a job at our organization last month. I didn't blacklist her or anything, but I did suggest they verify all educational credentials before hiring. They did. And they passed. Just figured you'd want to know. I sat with that for a minute. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't vengeful in the cinematic sense. But it was just. Avellini had spent her whole life riding on appearances, charming her way into opportunities she didn't earn. But that kind of advantage only works until the paper trail catches up with you. And I had made sure there was a trail now. She didn't get the job. Not long after, I received another message, this time from Avellini. I heard you contacted Stanford. They revoked my degree. I guess that was your way of getting back at me. I stared at her message for a long time before replying. No. That was my way of getting mine back. She didn't respond. I didn't expect her to. A few weeks later, I ran into my parents at a fundraiser for the Albany Historical Society. I had been invited to give a short talk on preserving family archives, ironic, given my own fractured history. I was standing at the back, sipping coffee during the intermission, when my mother approached. You look good, she said. Thanks. She fidgeted. We miss you, you know. We don't always say the right things. But we're proud of you. I tilted my head. You're proud of me now that I embarrassed the family in public? Her face colored, but she didn't argue. We didn't understand what it cost you. Until now. I sipped my coffee. That's the thing, Mom. You didn't want to understand. It was easier not to. We want to make things right, she said. You can't. I shrugged. But I'm not angry anymore. I just don't owe you the closeness you think you're entitled to. She nodded. Slowly. For once, she didn't try to guilt me. Didn't tell me to be the bigger person. She just said, I hope one day we can have something again. Maybe. And that was that. I returned to my table, gave my talk, and left the event with a quiet sense of triumph. The best revenge, it turned out, wasn't watching Avellini fall. It was watching myself rise. With my own name. My own choices. My own path. No lies. No shadows. Just me.